Hi, welcome to Did You Read This Book Yesterday? And I'm your host, Matthew Hernandez. Today we're looking at the Roald Dahl classic, Matilda. Now, I am actually re recording this because, in a sense, I just realized that though I had shown some various pages of the book and did some comparisons between the book and the movie and stuff, I didn't really summarize the book to do a proper review in a sense. I took for granted that maybe some people here hadn't seen the movie or something, the book. I should really focus on books and stop saying movie, but it truly is one of my favorite movies. And I hope that it is yours too. Yeah, so Matilda Wormwood, she's, small girl. She is incredibly smart. And in the movie, I really felt this huge. I really felt that the whole thing in the movie was about her intellect. But in the book, we can see some of her scheming that she enjoys doing. And you can even see that she does that maybe there's a purpose, almost like a divine reason why she's given her powers. Her powers is she has this power of, it's called telepathy, right? Where you can move things with your mind. So it begins to unfold that she has this ability. And I think in the book, it's just with a purpose about why she has this. But perhaps in the movie, she's just so smart that she has this ability. And I'd always kind of seen the movie as like a pro reading propaganda. And it's a bit funny in the movie because the movie's kind of like anti TV, anti movie, but yet you're watching a movie and stuff, right? And I think that they handled all that extremely well and all that. But every now and then, if you watch a very violent movie, but it has an anti-violence message, I don't know, sometimes it's just kind of silly. So Matilda Wormwood, her parents and her brother spend all day on watching TV. Her mother abandons her every day to go and play bingo. Her father is a sleazy used car salesman. And Matilda, she goes to the library, she reads a lot, and eventually she gets to go to school. But it's not a great school, and it has a horrible, well, in the book, headmistress, but in the movie, principal. Now, I think I've worked at enough places to see, where the head of a school might be called a principal versus a headmaster. But I think it's just that in the book it takes place in Britain versus in the movie it takes place in an unknown part in the US. So it could also be a bit of that. But though the headmistress is a horrible woman, Miss Trenchbull, Miss Honey, Matilda's teacher, is a wonderful woman. And I think part of that might sometimes reflect how it feels at school, right? Because, at school, there might be a couple of teachers who maybe you don't like, or maybe you like the principal, but then you don't like this teacher that your teacher kind of works with quite frequently, and you don't maybe like that teacher. Or, I don't know, something like that. Yeah. Well, now that this time I remembered to do a summary, and before doing this review, I was watching the movie and it all came back to me. I love this movie so incredibly much, and I had read this book years ago when I'd shared it in an English corner in town and read it with some locals, Chinese people here. But I hadn't read this book in years, and I don't know, maybe now with my son, maybe I'll try to play the movie once a year, and hopefully he'll get it later on or something. Being 3 as he looked a little bit scared when he saw Miss Trunchbull just heave that girl over the fence. Stuff. Yeah. Well, I think that since this time I remembered to do a quick summary of the book and all that, then I can continue this review and show you a couple of pages and such from the book, and I hope that you'll enjoy. This here is the cover of the book, same as here. I just used a cam scanner to get a good picture of it. See, borrowed it from work, and I figured, hey, can save a bit of cash, read the book from work, take it home, do a review, and maybe even show my work a video or something. So, same cover. Let's go on. So, this is what made me think of in the book that Matilda just likes to do these schemes. So, here's one of them that is not in the movie. And so she borrows a parrot, she sticks it up the chimney, and if you look here on page 39, she it's burglars, hissed the mother. They're in the dining room. I think they are, the father said, sitting tight. Then go and catch them, Harry, hissed the mother. Go out and collar them red-handed. But it's just it's just a parrot. And maybe by the movie not having this one, then we could just focus on her great intellect. And the reason that she does a few of her schemes in the movie is because she's her father. And I'm going to be paraphrasing, which is also said by the narrator, which, Danny DeVito is both the narrator and plays a Mr. Wormwood. And to paraphrase, what he had meant to say was, when a child is wrong, the child should be punished. But instead he said when a person is wrong, the person should be punished. So that's kind of when her scheming starts, right? But in the book, I just sort of get the sense that she kind of likes to do some of this stuff. Well, let's continue. So I like this a bit because they use some of this war language, right? I don't think that we saw some of this war language in the movie, but the movie is actually a little bit more graphic with some of this stuff than the book is. So here on page 103, it's like a war. You're darn right it's like a war, and the casualties are terrific. We are the Crusaders, the gallant army fighting for our lives with hardly any weapons at all, and the Trunchbull is the Prince of Darkness, the foul serpent. Ah, the Prince of Darkness. This is a point I was going to get at, is I will have to double check the page here in a bit, but it does seem like the reason for her powers are a bit different in both the movie and the book, but I will get back to that in a minute. Yeah, right about here. So I thought this was an interesting point to get. It's almost like kind of cliche, right? When somebody has some kind of like powers, like I'm a pretty big Dragon Ball fan, and when do they reach new heights to transform or something like that? When they get angrier. And, it says Matilda felt herself getting angrier and angrier and angrier, so unbearably angry that something was bound to explode inside her very soon. Now, here on the top of page 159, kind of electricity seemed to be gathering inside them. A sense of power was brewing in those eyes of hers, and a feeling of great strength was settling in itself deep inside her eyes. I don't know, it's just, I don't know. Okay, here. So this is the last of these screenshots that I'd taken. Now, I didn't take any more after this one just because the book goes so fast from here to its conclusion. And I don't know, I didn't know what part to show from that I might have ruined it or something. And even if you had seen the movie, it plays out a bit differently here than it does in the movie. So, looking here from the top of page 178, Matilda saw a narrow dirt path leading to a tiny red brick cottage. The cottage was so small it looked more like a doll's house than a human dwelling. The bricks it was built of were old and crumbly and very pale red. It's, I don't know, it's a beautiful scene, but more than just the scenery, I was kind of engrossed in just how tiny the cottage was. So this screenshot from the movie, I suppose we could, see the cottage is tiny, but this is actually a point that the book does more of a service to describe it than the movie. Because I mean, maybe, cinematography and you're watching it and you only see this screen for like 10 seconds. But if you take a bit more time here on the book, you really grasp just how tiny this is and just how horrible Miss Honey's situation is. And they go into a bit more depth with just, how bad her situation kind of is here. Okay. Now, one difference also was like the reason for Matilda's powers. In the book, once Miss Honey, well, I guess Matilda and Miss Honey discover Matilda's powers, Miss Honey thinks the creation, the beginning of the world, the first morning, and perhaps later on, she can't use these powers at all. Whereas in the book, it did seem like a skill that she can train, and she has. So it seems like there was something that she was meant or destined to do with it or something like that in the book. But yeah, I really enjoyed the book. I really enjoyed the movie. And I hope that you would enjoy both as well and all that. I don't know what else to say, so this video should probably be over. Have a nice day. Thank you. See ya.